brings men on, right? Good? See me and hear me okay? Testing, testing, testing. Yes? Okay.
Can you guys hear me okay? Is it loud enough? How now? Can you guys hear me? Bring it in right here. Is that better? Can you guys hear me? I'll try not to smack that as I'm talking. Hello. Yeah, it's fine.
Matt, can you hear us on the Zoom call?
I can.
Perfect.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are here to call to order the meeting of the San Bernardino County Advisory Redistricting Commission today, Wednesday, October 27th, 2021. This afternoon, we would like to welcome Pastor William Milliger, who will lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor William Milliger has been a pastor at Crestline First Baptist Church since 2007. Pastor William grew up in Southern California, and he and his wife moved to Crestline after spending 22 years planting churches in Arizona. He serves his community as the chair for Crest Forest Municipal Advisory Committee and as a member of the Rim of the World Unified School District Board of Trustees. William is also president of the Crestline Lake Gregory Rotary Club and assistant governor of our Rotary District, all while still finding the time to coach and officiate different sports and serve as lead advisor for the Early Acts Club at Valley of Enchantment Elementary School. Thank you, Pastor William Milliger. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
And on behalf of the Crestline community, I want to welcome the commission to the mountain. I hope you've noticed we ordered some very beautiful skyline for you to enjoy. So thank you for standing. Father God, we want to thank you for this day, for the beauty of your creation, for the privilege that we have to enjoy it here right now. Thank you, Lord, for this commission. We pray your wisdom for them and for our communities, that we would know best how to serve you, especially in these days, at these times, with the kinds of challenges facing our world. We pray for unity, Lord, as well. Pray that you would bring us together in a way that really blesses one another, honors you, and takes care of our community. So thank you for being with us and for the wisdom you promise. In your name we pray. Amen. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is right here. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
At this time, we will take roll call of the commission. Madam Secretary, Ms. Monell.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. If you could please respond by answering present or here. Judge Davis. Vice Chair Nakeem.
Present.
Judge King. Present. Commissioner Creffield.
Present.
Commissioner Little is present. He's just stepped out, for the record. Commissioner Basley.
Present.
Commissioner Jernigan.
Present. Commissioner
Anderson. Present. Commissioner Shannon. Commissioner Runnels? Commissioner Hazlett? Commissioner Wilson? Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We do have a quorum. Thank you for the reminder, Madam Vice Chair. At this time, I'd like to make an announcement regarding the agenda. In the original posting on Friday, October 22nd, the King V3 map was placed behind the cover sheet for the Public Submission 1-1 combined map, and the Public Submission 1-1 combined map was placed behind the cover sheet for the King V3 map. This was corrected on October 26th. All maps that are on today's agenda were posted correctly on Friday, posted on Friday, and the cover sheets for the two maps were simply transposed. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Monell. That concludes the roll call. At this time, we will review and move to approve the October 21st meeting minutes. Do we have any requests to speak on this item, Ms. Monell? Okay. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
Second.
A second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries to approve the October 21st meeting minutes. Next up on the agenda, we will have Fabian Valdez Jr. from Redistricting Insights and Max Rexroad, who is joining us virtually. And they will be presenting supervisory district map King V3 for approval and recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Afternoon. So here is the King V3 map. Let me zoom out so you can see the entire thing. I made some minor changes to include little areas that were slightly off before and making some changes that were indicated from the commission last time. And so now we have our full map here. The total deviation, let me actually get this so I can see it better. The total deviation for this map is 3.9 roughly. So it's well under the 5% total deviation goal we had. And this does keep two minority Latino districts.
Thank you. Do any of the commission members have any questions or comments for Mr. Valdez?
Is it possible just to highlight the final changes you made just real quickly? Or?
Sure, I can show you here.
Is it possible just to highlight the final changes they made to?
Yeah, so for the most part, it was little changes, for instance, kind of rounding out this area here, which is to the Newberry Springs, to the east of Newberry Springs, getting us a kind of a clean line, and then also around Barstow and Hinckley, making sure that I'm not cutting those communities off and adding in some little bits for cleaner lines in here. Then I'll move down a bit so we can see down here. I also made a couple of more changes down in this area to better clean up the lines in here, including getting Glen Helen, because it was split before, so making Glen Helen basically whole as a community in the 5th district. And I believe those are all the major changes I made specifically to this map.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the commission members or alternate commission members have any further questions or comments regarding this map? Yes, Judge King.
So I wish to confirm that there are only 2 cities that are broken up, and that is Fontana on below Freeway 10, and a small portion of Colton to the east of the 15.
I believe it's a 215, but yes, that is correct.
215, you're correct.
That is correct.
Those are
Fontana
the only
and
two jurisdictions
Colton.
that are broken.
Yes, the rest of the lines follow municipal boundary lines. There is a question as to, those are cities, there's a question as to whether or not some of the unincorporated communities have their lines breached. The best example I can give you is up here in the Barstow area, where you have the community of Hinckley, and you can see there is a small line. Well, that's not a census block line. It actually comes way out, so I just made the decision, since this follows a freeway, it's a better line to use on this section. But that's not a city. That's just in an unincorporated area.
All right. I would also like to note that this particular map keeps the mountain districts of the Crestline and the Big Bear area together, in that they share common issues in terms of living in the mountains with the snow and roadway issues, as well as have similar fire issues potentially. Additionally, this map does keep intact the various entities that are a part of the Homestead Valley. As well, it keeps those entities with the Lucerne Valley, which is consistent with the requests that we had. We had several requests to that effect. And then, of course, it keeps the ethnic diversity consistent with what we previously have had. So for all of those reasons, I believe it's a viable map for serious consideration by the board.
Okay, thank you, Judge King. Do the commissioners or alternate commissioners have any further questions or comments for Mr. Valdez regarding this map? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to public comment on this agenda item. So I would like to call up Michelle Laws. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. My name is Michelle Laws, and I've resided in San Bernardino County for 27 years, first in the town of Apple Valley and currently in Lake Arrowhead for 17 years. Having watched the last live stream meeting in Chino last week, I want to take the opportunity at this time to thank you for recognizing that the mountain communities have shared concerns and for that reason need to stay together. I appreciate that very much and thank you for recognizing that request. As a result of viewing several of the maps under consideration, I would like to provide more input on that issue at this time. The first thing to consider is communities that are different and have very few shared interests or concerns. I'm referring to the differences between the high desert and mountain communities specifically. To begin with, the high desert is not a destination per se. The travelers may stop temporarily, but they just pass through on their way to someplace else. Vegas, the river on the Arizona border, Death Valley, or north to Mammoth area, and the Sierras. The mountain regions, my tiptoes. The mountain regions are a destination. And who are the visitors and why are they coming? They are coming from the coastal areas, from the San Diego area to LA County, and all of the interior valleys at the base of the San Bernardino Mountains to escape the heat in the summer or experience the snow in the winter. They rent Airbnbs and stay for a few days or a week. The congestion they create up here is nothing compared to what they're escaping when they choose to vacation up here. So they contribute to the tourist economy, which was established long ago and is now relied upon by local businesses catering to their needs. So where does that leave the mountain communities in terms of this redistricting commission? Currently, from Crestline to Green Valley Lake, we're in District 2. You could leave us there, but with the addition of Big Bear, that may not be possible. The adjacent district is 5, which is directly below Crestline and Lake Arrowhead, would be a great selection. The Waterman route up becomes Highway 18 and takes you directly to Crestline, Lake Arrowhead, and points east. If that isn't possible, the next adjoining district is 3, which would also be a good choice. The municipal water district there has concerns about water supply in the underlying aquifer and whether it is sufficiently recharged. Water supply is also of concern to the mountain communities during this drought. So, District 2, 5, or 3 in that order, but please, not District 1. They're rural and they want to stay that way. The mountain communities are rural to an extent, but we want to protect and conserve the mountain environment and balance that with economic and developmental
That's time.
policies in support of the tourist industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. At this time, I would like to call up Michael Harris.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Harris. I serve as the publisher for the Alpine Mountaineer newspaper. It's the weekly newspaper that goes from Valley of Enchantment all the way to Running Springs. So we have a good sense of what's going on up here. I and my wife have lived here in Crestline for 40 years. A realtor 40 years ago said, you'll either be here 1 year or you'll be here more than 30. It's that lifestyle. And I applaud you for looking at this map and bringing the mountain communities into one district. We have such unique situations up here, weather, obviously, but the unique nature of being rural and doing some things as simple as having to go to your P.O. box to get your mail. There's no mail delivery to homes. This is all part of what some people might call the charm of living in the mountains, but I would like to see us remain as a mountain communities all the way to Big Bear in one district. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Secretary, do you have any other requests to speak?
No, Madam Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve and refer the map to the Board of Supervisors for consideration?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Judge King seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries to approve and refer this map for consideration to the Board of Supervisors. We now are moving on to agenda item 3, Supervisory District Map RI Proposal V2-1 combined. Mr. Valdez?
Okay, so here is that map. Again, I was just asked to make some minor changes to this map in order to bring it in line with a better total deviation and also making sure that we were on track with the Voting Rights Act. This map, as drawn, our total deviation is still, it's not under 5%, but it is under 6%. It's at 5.75 roughly. So it's still close to the 5% goal. And then in terms of the changes, I made some minor changes along over here, the edge, and then down in this area here around San Bernardino, cleaning up the line and making it a straighter line coming through the foothill, a part of San Bernardino, and then the mountain communities.
Okay, do any of the commission members Have any questions or comments regarding this map for Mr. Valdez?
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember which order this map was in Chino Hills. This was, I thought the public submission was the second map, and this maybe was the third map we had looked at?
I'm going to go, sure. I don't remember, to be
Yeah,
honest.
okay.
I don't remember.
I'm just trying to remember, this is the one that 4th District had the unincorporated and the incorporated portions.
Yeah.
Right?
The way I remembered this map is it had this interesting kind of little fork down at the bottom, and the reason it was doing that was to keep Fontana into only 2 districts, not 3, and we had to respect the Voting Rights Act district of the 4th and the 5th. And so that's why we had this weird shape here at the bottom. That's the reason I remember this map.
Can you move just up a little bit to the top of the 2nd District?
Sure.
Okay, and then move across towards there, just to kind of see that 3rd District line again.
Oh, 3rd District line, sorry. It does not collect Colton. It stays in Loma Linda. This map, as drawn, only splits San Bernardino and Fontana.
Is this the one at the bottom of 3rd District does cut into Colton or not?
This one does not go into Colton.
Okay.
This one follows the municipal boundary of Loma Linda. And then like I said, the only spot it splits is the city of San Bernardino. It takes a portion of San Bernardino here. And I can turn on the streets if you'd like, make it a little easier for you to see. So, and then it also splits Fontana into 2 districts. This, I guess you'd call it the southwestern part being in the 4th District and the northeastern part being in the 2nd District.
All right, okay, thank you. Now I remember this one now.
Do the commission members have any other further questions or comments regarding this map? The alternates, commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Valdez? Sure.
Want me to move into it? Sure. Here's. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is Crestline, Lake Arrowhead, Running Springs. This is Big Bear City and Big Bear Lake. Right.
Okay. If there are no further comments or questions by the commissioners or alternate
Madam Chair?
commissioners? Yes,
Madam
Judge
Chair,
King.
I'm sorry, I'm slow on the uptick here.
That's fine.
I have some concerns about District 3 being so geographically large and so diverse in terms of the entities that are represented therein. Redlands, for example, is at one end of the spectrum, and then we have a lot of very rural, small communities, and then we include Barstow, and we go all the way up to the northern end of the edge of the county. It is, I believe, the largest geographic area reflected on any of the proposed maps that we have. Is it
Yes,
not?
that is correct. The one thing I can say is the only difference this District 3 has with the District 3 in the last map we just looked at is the last map includes a portion of Colton and not San Bernardino, and it cuts around Barstow, but this map comes over the top and takes everything outside of Barstow, so it becomes much more large geographically, yes. And then it also does not have Colton, but it takes part of San Bernardino. So the other map also goes Redlands to Barstow, the last map we just looked at.
And in terms of the area of San Bernardino that it excludes or splits, what percentage approximately would you?
I'm sorry, what percentage what?
What percentage of the population or geographic area do you think is reflected in that split?
How many people are
Could
from?
be, yes.
I can give you a second. We'll figure that out right now. So it looks like that is 38,249 people. 245, I'm sorry. 38,245 people. And if I were to take the entire city of San Bernardino, now granted this is not including these little unincorporated areas, I'm just looking at the broad numbers for the city of San Bernardino. And the total population of the city is 223,194. So that would be roughly 17% of the city of San Bernardino is included in the 3rd district.
I also just note that it does indeed keep the mountain areas together, which I think is appropriate. I have some concern about the fact that the area of the county that is burgeoning so significantly, the upper desert, has so many demands on those entities up there that would be a great deal of responsibility for a supervisor to also deal with both mountain areas effectively, but so be it, I guess. The numbers of individuals are the same. It also keeps the Homestead Valley communities together, which is important as well.
Commissioner Anderson, did you have a comment?
Yes, I want to make sure I came to the mic this time.
Thank you.
Just so I'm sure, this map here, it's not so much as what I see, but it is. This map in its entirety has the most total deviation in all the different districts. In other words, instead of making them equal, some areas have gone completely a long way apart. As with the King version, we tried to be more equitable. This one seems to have gone in the opposite direction. But we do have to submit other maps. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Besley.
What's the low and the high as far as total population for districts?
The total deviation high is 3.04% in the 1st district, so it's 3% over. And the low is negative 2.7% in the 3rd district. When I was making some adjustments to this map, since those two border, I was actually looking at the best way I could try to even that out a little bit. But unfortunately came to the problem of I would have to split one of these areas, Adelanto, Phelan, Apple Valley, and I didn't want to do that in this map. Grabbing the areas outside did not change the number significantly enough. There's just not enough population to make that change large. So I just said, well, I'm not going to be able to make a significant difference. I'm going to leave the population deviation where it is between those two.
So is that, for the 5%, is that around 20-some thousand difference in representation between the 1st and the 3rd? Right.
So the 3rd district has 424,000, and the 1st district has 449,000. So it'd be about a 25,000 person difference. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Crutfield?
I think when we were looking at this map, it was definitely much different than some of the other maps we were looking at, but we were looking at options. So that's why I believe last week we approved this version, because it just gave another option to the Board of Supervisors.
I would agree with that statement. It was, I believe, the 3rd map we looked at that evening. And it was kind of the idea to give the Board of Supervisors a variety of options. So we didn't just keep recommending the same map with small tweaks, several times. At that, do any of the commissioners or alternate commissioners have any other questions or comments? Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to public comment. I would like to call up Michelle Laws.
Let me zoom in for you.
We're all in this map in one. and that's the least desirable place for us to be in terms of community of interest. All of our visitors come down from in front of us on the front side of the mountain, and they stay. And we, conversely, in Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear, all of those destinations wind up going downhill in front of us for our medical, for shopping, access that we don't have the opportunity up here to have. I mean, there are no big boxes. I mean, I don't go to Costco, but I do eventually get to Target every now and then. And so when we serve our jury duty, we're assigned San Bernardino. We're not assigned to the mountains, to the high desert. We always go down below. There are 2 motor vehicle offices for us to have access to. There's none up here, and there's only one in the high desert, and it's in Victorville. I used to live in Apple Valley, so I'm familiar with the area, but we have the population of the desert communities is not big enough for us to be able to make our voices heard unless we're more lumped into the communities that visit us. And we're already in 2. It would be nice if we could stay there. The population of Big Bear isn't all that big. We're only talking about 1 more community to be added to it. And geographically, all of the roads lead down for us to the greater San Bernardino area, Redlands, that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. At this time, I'd like to call up Greg Rice.
I've been a supervisor level at most of the areas in the county. The only areas I haven't been a supervisor for providing community services and enforcement is in incorporated areas. So I know the whole county, and I can tell you, placing us with not the high desert, North Desert. If you place us with the North Desert, the example of how it works, you go back many years when the county first started, and you would see every 2 years, the Board of Supervisor would be repealed, and you'd have a new supervisor. Only in District 1, because District 1 was the desert and the mountains. So you can see the difference in history that the mountains need to be one area. If you have to tie us to another area, and of course you have to because there's not enough population, look for characteristics that function the same for community services, communities' needs. And if you look at the low desert, they will tell you, you've been out there, they will tell you that, yes, they rely on tourists, and they're really strong on environmental issues because that's a desertly preserved. You go to the North Desert, and it's more development, as one of the other speakers said, people traveling through and going to Vegas, going to things. It's built up in a different function. They have been building with all the infrastructure. If you look at the South Desert, you look at the mountains, we don't have the infrastructure. So when you look at a supervisor, they're going to have to do resource needs in the community based on what the communities need. And the only way you can do that to balance it is if you tie the mountains to the front of the mountains, which is highland. We get a lot of resources from the Rongo Basin is way out, but if you look at the other Indian reservations, we get a lot of resources, a lot of help from the front of the mountain. Why? Because that's the fire risk, the main fire risk. That's where the roads go through. That's where the drainage that has problems generally goes in that direction. You have Mill Creek going down to the front. So when you look at a supervisor's job of providing resources for the services in the area and the needs to be able to communicate with people of like-minded interest, you've got to tie the mountains to the South Desert and the front of the mountain. Tying it to the desert on the north side, up in Barstow area, we have nothing in common. We have no needs. Yes, they have flooding issues, but their flooding issues are flash floods and fast drainage issues. Our drainage issues would be long-term problems. If you look at Rim Forest, for example, part of the mountain is ready to fall down where you have a community because of drainage issues. So you got to look at resource needs. When you're looking at what are the community's resource needs, what are the like-minded thoughts of the community. When you say North Desert versus South Desert, that's one thing. If you say high desert and low desert, those people argue over those comments because the South Desert's actually higher in elevation than what you call the North Desert. So they're going, why are you putting us down? We're actually higher.
That's
I've worked
time.
there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. At this time, do I have a motion to approve and... No. That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, keeping me on track. At this time, do we have a motion to approve and refer the map to the Board of Supervisors for consideration?
Could I comment on it short of a motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'm sorry I was late. I have a cold. I have to tell everybody I'm wearing a mask just to be safe. I tested COVID negative and I missed last meeting for this terrible cold. But you don't want to even get this one, so I'm going to mask up just to be safe. But I am COVID negative, and my best friend's a big-time doctor down the hill, and I had lunch with her today, and she said I'm no longer infectious, but just to be totally safe, I'm going to mask up. So I apologize for that. And I guess it's good I missed the vote on the minutes because I wasn't at the last meeting for this illness. I know Mr. Valdez, I lost my view of it, but I know Mr. Valdez won't be offended. I don't really care for this map, partly for the disequilibrium between the districts, and I would say the solution would have to be to move Big Bear into 3 to equalize about 20,000 voters. Does that sound right, Mr. Valdez?
Total deviation about 25,000, yeah. Total difference between the two is about 25,000, yeah.
And that's about Big Bear City and its adjacent community. I'm not saying that's a good idea. That would be a solution. But for the reasons voiced here by the public, I agree that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the mountain communities to be with the north side of the lakes and mountains rather than the south side. I'm here mostly to look at the interests of District 2, which in recent 10 years has included Lake Arrowhead and Lake Gregory and so forth, Running Springs. And I've made the argument about Lytle Creek and the crest of the mountain north from Rancho Cucamonga, which basically runs from Mount Baldy to Lytle Creek, that it should be in with its southern neighbor because that's really the only way to access that area. And access essentially forms a community of interest for fire protection, flood, and so forth. So it doesn't sound like we have a motion, but I'd be inclined to vote no for this map.
Thank you, Commissioner Little. Are there any other questions or comments?
Just a comment. This was the map at Chino Hills that for many of the reasons that Commissioner King voiced her opinion on it, I agreed with her. This third district is really unwieldy as drawn, and because of the total deviation being at least a point higher than some of the other maps that we have in consideration, I was willing to go along to get to the next step to see if we could see how many maps we had and see what we wanted to do, but I'd be inclined to not push this one forward any further.
Okay, thank you. So with not having a motion to approve this map, I would like to make a motion that we remove this map from the agenda. Would that be appropriate, Ms. Serber?
You could make a motion to take it off calendar, but we have already discussed it, so perhaps the better motion would be to not recommend it to the Board of Supervisors.
That would be my motion, please.
Okay.
As articulated by Ms. Serber.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the motion passes to not recommend this map to the Board of Supervisors. We will now move on to a meeting agenda item number 4, map public submission 1 combined. Mr. Valdez?
Okay, so this is the public submission 1 map. We made some tweaks to it, similar to the last map, where we have kind of a cut up around the Newberry Springs area, but this one follows kind of more the, I think this is kind of like a desert area here. This map specifically, similar to previous maps we had, takes the community all the way to the 3rd district all the way to the county line. So it includes the community of Lytle Creek. Wrightwood goes with Pinion Hills and Phelan, and then the Mount Baldy area is coming down into the 2nd district, but the rest of the 3rd district comes all the way over. This one also splits Colton at the 215 again, similar to the King version 3 map. And this one also splits the city of Upland instead of the city of Fontana.
I'm sorry, what city was that?
Upland.
Upland, thank you.
So the 2 cities split in this map are Colton and Upland.
And, excuse me.
Thank you. Commissioner Badsley?
And the total deviation on this one is?
Total deviation on this one is 2.8% total deviation. The high being 1.17% over in the 2nd district, the low being 1.6% under in the 3rd district.
Can I just clarify, is any portion of Redlands split?
You're asking about this area right here, right? Yes. This is municipally the city of Redlands, but there's no population. It's called, I think someone called it the Wash.
Okay. So. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Jernigan.
The city of Bloomington is annexed by Rialto. So what you would effectively be doing is splitting Rialto as far as the...
Well, Bloomington is in the 5th district with Rialto in this map. I have it zoomed in here. They're both in the 5th district.
Is it and Colton, or part of just the southern part of Colton?
Yeah, the
south of the 10 freeway?
The western portion of Colton, but south of the 215, it's in the 3rd district with Grand Terrace.
And Grand Terrace is whole?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think we talked about this one.
This one, for clarification, this has a lot of similar lines to maps we've seen, King V3, and even the last map we saw has a lot of similar lines. Some of the major differences are, instead of splitting Fontana, we're splitting Upland. Also, the 5th district, the Glen Helen area goes up with the mountain communities in the 3rd district. So the 5th district had the Glen Helen community in some of the other maps. And then the last big change, the last big change is the cutout for Needles coming up this way.
What's the deviation for 3 and 5?
The 3rd district is 1.6% under. The 5th district is 0.69% over.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Is there any chance you can show me what the deviations between 1 and 3 are if you take the Needles and the Chimawavy Reservation and place them in District 1? Seeing how there's not an absolute any community of interest within 100 miles of us in this map. And as the line is drawn, just so you know, that's only 50 miles from town.
So that I just kind of grabbed a rough just approximation of the area needles to the reservation. That is about 5,600 people. That would bring the 3rd district down to a total deviation of -3%, and the 1st district would be at a total deviation of 0.07 if that were moved up into the 1st district. So it would make the 1st district a little closer to the ideal. It would make the 3rd district a little further from the ideal.
So the 1st district would be almost as ideal as you could possibly make it. Unfortunately, 3 is still a problem.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Do any of the other commissioners or alternate commissioners have questions or comments regarding this map?
I want to clarify one thing on that last statement as well. The 3rd district would be 2.93% under. The next highest, the highest deviation would be the 2nd district at 1.17% over. So your total deviation would still be under 5% if this were to happen. Even though you'd have a 3% district, your total deviation would be about 4.2%.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, seeing no more requests to speak from the commissioners or alternate commissioners, we're going to go ahead and move to public comment on this item. Oh, yes, Judge King.
Slow. So this particular map is consistent with the testimony that we've received today relative to residents of the mountain communities being aligned with District 3 rather than being District 1, which is preferable to the residents of this area, and honoring their community's interests and involvement with the rest of the county. What bothers me about this map is the splitting of Upland at 14th Street. We have requirements. I mean, the whole reason it's split is because of the equality of population requirement, so we can't get around that. But it clearly does separate or divide a community, a neighborhood. There is no break in 14th Street, north of 14th Street versus south of 14th Street. Indeed, there's a elementary school right on 14th, another one right on 15th, a junior high very close, and that pulls from the community both north of that line and south of that line. And so there's no justification for that being a border of a supervisorial district. Notwithstanding, we need to give the supervisors some alternatives, I believe, and this does deal with the numbers in terms of population equality. And it does address the mountain community's concerns about being with District 3 as opposed to District 1. So.
Thank you, Judge King. Do any of the other commissioners or alternate commissioners have any comments regarding this map? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move into public comment for this agenda item. So at this time, I'd like to call up Greg Rice.
If I understand this map correctly, it brought Lytle Creek into the mountain communities, is that right? Okay, let me there's a lot of people out here, I'm sure haven't been to Lytle Creek. Lytle Creek is like the mountain community, only low. It's also along the 15, which is where we see a lot of the fires start that come up to our mountain communities. They have the same fire restrictions that we do. They have shared resources. They also have little campgrounds, and so they're tourist-based. They are not overly developed. There's cabins. Their infrastructure is very similar to what we have up here, small roads. They were lots that were developed long, long time ago, so they may have only 3 feet from a cabin to a property line like we have up here. They have a lot of similarities to what we have up here. If you look at advertising modes for a district, you would start seeing the same similarities, the same things, and the people in that area are the same community-minded as the people up here. They consider that mountain community. In fact, one of their largest sites is called Mountain Lakes. That's one of their campgrounds. So it really reinforces that. So tying this map so that the mountain communities are together, the restriction areas where you have fire issues, where resources are necessary. We have one of our main exits for the community is 138. It goes down, hits the 15, which is basically the adjoining areas to Lytle Creek. So when you start tying it together, it really makes a lot of sense for our community to be tied with that type of boundary. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any further comments of the commissioners or alternate commissioners? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve and refer this map to the Board of Supervisors for consideration?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries to approve and refer this map for consideration to the Board of Supervisors. At this time, we will be moving on to agenda item 5. Mr. Valdez and Mr. Rexroad will now provide map Public Submission 3 combined for review and possible modification.
I believe you were given the background on this map. You were provided with that. This map comes from the Inland Empire Redistricting Hub. And I believe they provided you with, they gave a PDF explaining some of their reasoning for the maps. I can also go over this as I'm going through it. Starting in the 1st District. The 1st District comes all the way down to the southern border and wraps around taking Needles, taking the freeway, and coming all the way back up. Let me turn on the street level so you can see this a little better, actually. And coming all the way back up, skirting Barstow, so it takes Barstow and the communities around it as well. And then comes down over into the Victor Valley, except Pinion Hills and Phelan and Wrightwood, which are excluded from this map. The reasoning was to keep the high desert communities whole, is what they're saying in their reasoning. It looks that they're not just keeping the high desert, but they're keeping all the desert communities whole, really, or a good chunk of them whole in this map, rather, except for the Morongo Basin area. So that's the 1st District. The 2nd District.
I'm sorry, just a quick question. We've done this exercise before, but I don't recall the numbers. If the Wrightwood, Phelan, Pinion Hills area was included, what would the population be if it was included in the 1st?
So the total change in population would be about 26,000. And that would put the 1st District at 6.8% over and the 3rd District at 6.1% under. So your total deviation would be almost 13%.
Got it. Thank you.
Moving to the 2nd District. The 2nd District comes across, cuts upland. It comes across upland and Rancho Cucamonga. And then it also splits out most of Fontana. And then comes down to Bloomington, splits Rialto and Colton along the freeway. And then it comes down to 215 for another split of Colton and around Grand Terrace. And this one was trying to pay attention to the Latino communities in Fontana, Bloomington, Rancho, and Upland, is what their reasoning for that map, district map was. So again, it splits Upland, Rancho Cucamonga, Fontana, Rialto, and Colton. Cuts across all of them. The 3rd District, this is trying to keep the mountain communities together, so it includes all the mountain communities as well as out all the way to the San Antonio Heights and the upper part of Upland and Rancho Cucamonga and Fontana and the Mount Baldy area. It also includes Pinion Hills and Phelan, and then it moves out into the Morongo Basin all the way over, but not quite as far as Big River. It kind of cuts off before then. It does not include Barstow either. It cuts around Barstow. But it does include the Homestead Valley, Lucerne. And this one, similar to the maps that we've drawn before with King V3 and the last map, public submission 1_1, this one splits Colton at the 215, or the 3rd district, and keeps Cran Terrace whole. And then the 4th district. This 4th district is similar to a lot of the other ones with Chino Hills, Ontario, and Montclair, and they split upland. And I believe, let me look at because I believe it's, I want to see the street. Yes, it's Foothill. I wanted to double check. So it splits upland at Foothill Boulevard. But the cities of Ontario, Montclair, Chino, and Chino Hills are kept whole. And lastly, the 5th district is in the city of San Bernardino, and it also includes portions of Highland, so it cuts Highland, takes the rest of San Bernardino, and then it takes the Glen Helen area, the top portion of Rialto, the top portion of Colton.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Valdez.
One last thing.
Yes.
This map does include 2 majority-minority Latino districts.
Or 3.
Was it 3? Oh, it's 3. Yeah, you're right. It's 3. I'm sorry. This one includes 3 majority-minority Latino districts. I believe it's the 4th, the 2nd, and the 5th.
Okay, thank you.
The 2nd is 53%. The 4th is 50.74%, and the 5th is 58.8%. So it's 3 majority-minority districts in this map.
And for the
Yes.
record, the letter that was submitted by the group that submitted this map is included in your packet, and that is what Mr. Valdez was referring to in his presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Serber.
Sorry.
Yes, Commissioner Basley.
I did have this question earlier of County Council, and this particular issue of the 3 districts with the majority-minority districts. In pursuant to the Voting Rights Act, is there a hierarchy that 3 districts, majority-minority, is stronger than the 2 that have the current or close to the current percentages that we currently have, or not? Is this?
The concern with the proposed map is that in the attempt to get 3 majority districts, you have weakened the minority percentage in those districts, and so that could be questionable under the Voting Rights Act.
Thank you.
And my concern with this map is that it splits not only about 5 different cities,
1, 2, 3, 4,
which is one of the
6, 7.
7 cities, which we have effectively tried not to do that. And that was one of the first charges we had when we came on this commission, to try to keep these cities whole. And this one effectively just eliminates all of that.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan. Do any of the alternate commissioners have any questions or comments regarding this map? Yes. Of course. Judge King.
Okay. As I understand this map, it splits Upland in 3 separate districts. Is that correct?
That is not correct. It splits Upland only into 2 districts. The city of Colton is split into 3 districts.
Okay.
So Colton, the northern portion is in the 5th, then the southwestern portion is in the 2nd, and the southeastern portion is in the 3rd.
And this was I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have another question. I remember there was some discussion about Wrightwood being, as in terms of the way of life, much more associated with the high desert as opposed to the lower levels are down from the Cajon Pass, but Pinion Hills and Phelan, aren't they both high desert?
Yes.
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 Geographically high desert, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't think it's ambiguous.
So Wrightwood is the mountain community above the high desert cities or areas, I'm not sure if they're cities, of Phelan and Pinion Hills.
And they all come down into the high desert for, whatever they like to do. They don't head the other direction.
Right, there's no way to go from Wrightwood to like Rancho Cucamonga.
Correct.
Yes, Commissioner Anderson.
I'd just like to point out, I know it's been covered a little bit, and I think we've said it enough. When you're cutting a city in three, I think almost every meeting we've been asked not specifically to do this. And this goes against everything that we've heard testimony on from our very first meeting. And I'd just like to remind everyone of that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the commissioners or alternate commissioners?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up and bring some clarity to the answer to Commissioner King's question regarding the city of Upland. The map creates the appearance that the city of Upland might be split three ways. Is it possible to do an overlay of the Upland city limits and the...
My mistake. You are correct. The city of Upland, the northern portion is in District 3. Then there's a section in District 2, and my mistake, there is a portion on the 4th District. So Upland is split into 3, and Colton is split into 3, and that is correct, Judge King.
All right, thank you very much.
And effectively, since Bloomington is annexed by Rialto, that splits that community in two.
Yes, and also there's a portion of Rialto
Rialto
split
is
as
split
well.
also. Right.
If I may point out also, San Antonio Heights is in the same school district and fire department as Upland. And I guess this would split the Upland Unified School District into 3 supervisorial districts. And I guess that's now county fire, but the portion of county fire that services Upland, San Antonio Heights, and I believe Mount Baldy would also be in 3 supervisorial districts.
Thank you, Commissioner Little. If there's no other questions or comments by the commissioners or alternate commissioners, we'll go ahead and move into public comment on this item. At this time, I'd like to call up Greg Rice.
I agree with the comments about Pinion Hills and Wrightwood. Those are serviced and they believe they're part of the North Desert. On the other hand, if you look at the District 1 map, it includes Big River and Needles, which to access them, you go down into the South Desert to go around to get up to them. So it would be like saying, we're going to include Big Bear, but the only way to get there is to go down to the 15, come around and take 18 all the way and go back up and say, oh, that needs to be part of this district, that you don't get there from here. And it's hours and hours of drive. I don't think the population out of their area is that extreme. If you take Big River to offset Wrightwood and Phelan, you can probably go that direction and trade it. If you took in Needles, obviously it's going to kick it way high. But at least you can try to correct it as much as you can by pulling part of the South Desert back into the South Desert and taking part of what you've pulled out of the North Desert back into the North Desert. So you have the services to those communities where they're already getting them. You have the access where they're already getting them. You have, the like-minded people. You have everything that starts pulling together a lot more than what this map shows. So I would definitely recommend against this one. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and call up Michelle Laws.
I didn't understand the fact that Big Bear was not in 3 from the last comments. It seems to me it is in 3.
Yes, Big Bear's in the 3rd District.
Right. But I agree with the Pinion Hills and the Wrightwood section being part of one. The 15 freeway splits it's a major thoroughfare through the high desert, and the high desert is on both sides of it. But once you start coming through the pass, the communities of Pinion Hills and Phelan are on the west side, and then Wrightwood is on the west side. And so the geography is going to work for you in this because the freeway goes through the break in the mountains, through the pass. And so it's a perfect dividing line for Phelan and those areas to be on one side and the rest of 3 and 2 to be on the east side of the freeway. Again, 3 was one of those places where it would work well for the mountain communities. It's ideally I would like to stay in 2, and maybe or 5 would be the next best option for us because it's right at the bottom of the mountain. When you come out of Big Bear, and you end up, off the 210, and you're right there. You can go to Redlands, or you can continue on to San Bernardino. So I don't. Thank you. No further comments on that.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Little had a comment on this agenda item.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It looks like as I study the maps and the accompanying narrative, this may be one of those be careful what you wish for situations. Theoretically, if you had 3 majority-minority districts, and they're all 51%, the minority candidate could lose in all 3 of them, and you'd have, because the threshold is so tight against a majority. So, I mean, I think this county may naturally have 2 majority-minority districts. But when you get to 3, do we have a problem? It's maybe a good question from Ms. Server. We have a problem with the Voting Rights Act essentially diluting minority votes across too many districts.
That is correct. If you dilute the Hispanic minority vote into 3 districts, it can become questionable under the Voting Rights Act.
Incidentally, I made up those numbers. It's not 51, 51, 51, but, like I say, if it's spread too thin, we expose the county to litigation under the Voting Rights Act, and it's too early to ask for an official opinion on this, but I would worry that not only would we end up with, in an attempt to create 3 majority-minority districts, we may end up with 0 minority members of the Board of Supervisors and expose ourselves to litigation under the Voting Rights Act.
Thank you, Commissioner Little. Do the alternates or commissioners have any further comments on this item? Yes, Judge King.
In response to Ms. Law's comments, I understand the justification that you're setting forth, certainly, as to why you think the mountain communities not only should be together, but should be with District 5. But District 5 is a very densely populated district, and all those towns that are together have so much in common with each other, certainly more in common with each other than they do with the mountain communities. And there's only so many people you can put in a district. And so when you're looking at the mountain communities, I mean, you're close to 30,000 people, and that's not a small number to just fit in with another district.
Thank you, Judge King. Is there any further comment? Okay, moving on. Do we have any further public comment, Ms. O'Neill?
No, we do not.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we not recommend this map to the Board of Supervisors. This would be because of the concerns that we have with the Voting Rights Act. Do I have a second?
Second.
I also think it should be based on these state requirements as well. It is not consistent with those state requirements at all in terms of splitting the communities.
Okay, so I'd like to amend that motion and make it that we are not going to recommend this map to the Board of Supervisors due to Voting Rights Act concerns as well as state requirement concerns. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes, and this map will not be recommended to the Board of Supervisors. At this time, we will be moving on to Agenda Item 7, public comment.
I believe we have item number 6 first.
Did I miss 6? I apologize. I missed a page. Moving on to Agenda Item 6, Mr. Valdez will provide the current supervisorial districts for review and possible modification.
Okay, so this is the current supervisorial districts. I made some slight changes to it in order to bring it in line with the current census blocks geography. For the most part, those changes happened along the northern border here of the 2nd district. There are also some minor changes in some of the other places, very small changes, but the rest of it is kept with the same lines as we had before.
The same question as far as a total deviation on the current map.
So the total deviation in this map, the highest deviation is the 1st district at 2.17%, and the lowest deviation is the 4th district is the 2nd district at negative 1.84%. So our total deviation in this map is about 4%.
Can I ask how many cities are split?
In this map, we split the cities of Upland and Colton and San Bernardino. Is Fontana split in
To
this
the east,
one?
yeah.
Oh, you're right down the center. So Upland, Colton, Fontana, and San Bernardino. So there's 4 cities split in this map.
Yes, Commissioner Basley.
Actually, nope, 5. There's Barstow.
So this is a request that I added at the last meeting in Chino Hills, and it was really to set a baseline for what we currently have for the Board of Supervisors to see what the deviation is and the CVAP numbers. At this point, there are so many of the issues that we've tried to change. I'm not certain if it's worthwhile going for it or modifying it anyway. I mean, there's the mountain split that currently exists. There's the Fontana split that we've talked about in many of the other cities. I still think it's an important baseline for the board. I don't think it's necessarily one for them to consider, but I think the exercise is worthwhile, if nothing else, as a presentation for them to see what this is. If nothing changed, this is where we're at. I think the real question is it worthwhile to try to modify this map in some way to alleviate a lot of the issues that we've worked on in the King map and the public submission map? And I quite frankly, I don't know, but that would be the only, I don't think the commission would want to push this one forward because of the same reasons we've talked about before. But, do we start with what we have and try to modify it? We've not done that exercise yet. And I'd go either way with that.
Thank you, Commissioner Basley. Is there any further questions or comments on this map? Yes, Commissioner Little.
This map has some benefits as I see it from District 2, as I've said, going up to the crest of the mountain northward from Upland, Rancho Cucamonga. It unites the portions of Fontana that share a school district with Rancho Cucamonga, although Fontana's split. And it retains the community of interest that's existed for 10 years now, with this end of the mountains being in District 2. And I'd be appreciative of comments from the public about what their attitude is about that. The last thought I have is that, if you live in a municipality like I do, you don't really deal with the county on a whole lot of things. If you live in an unincorporated area, you deal with the county quite a bit. So I believe it's important to have some substantial portion of unincorporated areas in 3 supervisorial districts. And this one accomplishes that. It's very hard to do in 4. There's a little pocket of unincorporated area. Mr. Valdez and I were talking about this earlier. It's addressed as Pomona, California, but it's essentially Chino, Montclair, but it's unincorporated. But in 2, it includes Lytle Creek, and I believe it includes unincorporated Fontana. Am I right about that, Mr. Valdez?
Yes, the 2nd district includes the unincorporated portion of Fontana, the Raceway area.
Right, and includes a portion of Fontana. And similarly, of course, coming up with unincorporated areas in 1 and 3 is not too difficult. Coming up with it in 4 and 5 is very difficult. But this does provide sufficient representation for rural folk in unincorporated areas. If we don't include that much, it could be the people with the most at stake in county government get outvoted over and over and over again because they don't have any pull with their supervisors. Thank you.
You, Commissioner Little. Do the alternate commissioners have any questions or comments regarding this map? Okay, commission members, any further questions or comments? Okay, at this time, do we have any request for public comment?
We do not, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you.
I would move to recommend this map to the board.
Okay.
If we're going to do that, my suggestion is to see, I see that 2nd and 4th districts are the ones that are the greatest deviation under, if that's correct.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if 2nd district, if you put in Big Bear, what that does. So I'm inclined to move forward with this map also, but it is this comment that we've heard consistently from the very first meeting that we've had to include all the mountain communities, and I don't know what that does to 3rd district.
So I'm not including the areas around it, but I don't think there's a whole host of people sitting here, so I'm just including the municipal boundaries of those areas, so you can just kind of take a look at it. Were we to include Big Bear and Big Bear Lake into the 2nd district, the 2nd district would then be 2.25% over, and the 3rd district would be 2.97% underpopulated. So your total deviation at that point would be closer to 5 1/4.
We do have a request to speak that was just submitted, if you so choose to accept it.
Yes, go ahead.
No second.
Okay, I'm going to call up Mike Harris.
Again, I can speak from living up here for 40 years. And I also used to serve as the editor for the Mountain News, which is in Lake Arrowhead. The benefit of having two supervisors for the mountain is that maybe you would have two votes for an issue that might come up to the supervisors. But I think it's more important to have all the mountain communities in one district because, except for the city of Big Bear, which is incorporated, we all depend on the county for most of our services. And I think it would behoove those who would understand that we have a relationship with the county, sometimes good, sometimes not good, because all of our support is down in San Bernardino. But I think it's more important to unite the mountain communities in one district, and that's what I would say.
Thank you for your comments. We're going to go ahead and take another additional comment, and so I'm going to call up Greg Rice.
I just want to respond to his comment about having some unincorporated area in each district. And I think all of you probably remember when the Valley area supervisors took the money away for traveling money and things like that for the districts, for the supervisors out in the desert communities. It shows that, and that's happened over different issues, where some of the supervisors will definitely vote in a block against other supervisors, even though it has a major impact on their function on a day-to-day basis. So I recognize it's really hard because you have, 5 different categories of decisions that you have to balance, and it's not easy. But this process is so important to the people in the communities that, when you look at this map that we have for our current district supervisors, I don't believe it's been working. I was happy to see, and I was really active in ECD money and things like that. So I look at this and I say, yes, this was created in an approach in my mind for getting areas that would provide funding for supervisors, for providing different blocks that they could work with, looking at areas that were already fully developed so that they could concentrate on services, giving more money into those districts that are already incorporated, giving more money to the cities that are already incorporated. Some of the grant block money went into cities that used to help the unincorporated. So what I see now is a map that really is working against the unincorporated areas. But I still, over that, would say keep the mountain communities together, keep the areas that are like-minded people, that have like-minded services, try to keep those types of things together as your strongest decision, even if it means blocking a city, which is really hard, into multiple parts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Before moving on with the motion, does any commissioner or alternate commissioner have any further comments or questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes. Judge King.
Yes, looking at this map, I believe there are 4 different cities that are split, or did you say 5 with Barstow?
Upland, Fontana, Colton, and San Bernardino. And I think a small portion of Barstow. I believe it's a small portion of Barstow, but if not, it's the Lenwood area next to Barstow is split out from Barstow.
There is a piece of Barstow by the cemetery.
Yeah.
Under the Fair Map Act, we have an obligation to follow those priorities, and we certainly can do so and come up with a viable map. In light thereof, I don't believe it's appropriate for us to recommend that the supervisors approve a map that splits 5 different jurisdictions when we've been able to come up with several options where there's only 2 jurisdictions that are split, cities that are split. Additionally, this is clearly a community of interest, the mountain communities, and this map splits those. So I don't see how this can be a viable recommendation of this commission and be in compliance with the Fair Map Act.
Okay, thank you, Judge King. Is there any further comments or questions? The commissioners, alternate commissioners? Okay, so I'm going to go revert back to Commissioner Little's motion, if you'd like to restate your motion.
Yeah, my motion is to approve this map with the normal proviso that our consultants can make some small manipulations that they'll reveal to us. If it's the pleasure of the board for me to withdraw this and postpone this discussion and noodle around with this map a little more, that would be fine as well. But I am making the motion.
Okay, is there a second for this motion? Okay, hearing no second, the motion does not carry.
Someone else on the board could make a motion to not recommend this map to the Board of Supervisors, if that's the desire of one of the commissioners.
Yes, Commissioner Crutchfield.
I'll make that motion that we do not submit this map to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. Judge King with the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Staying.
Yes.
So if I can confer with council, so we have 3 ayes, 2 nays, and an abstain, so we do not have a majority vote. Does this item move forward?
No, it does not.
Thank you.
So I believe we would need to ask for another motion or another vote, correct?
Yes.
Perhaps is the solution to table this for a future meeting and see what kind of consensus can be drawn?
Well, there shouldn't be any discussion among the commissioners except at a noticed meeting, but there would be no problem with continuing this map or requesting this map be on the agenda for the meeting next week.
That would be my preference, if only because we're missing one member, so we'd have perhaps a tiebreaker or a further fruitful discussion.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and make the motion that this item be calendared for the next meeting, which is on November 2nd. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries that this will be on the agenda for the November 2nd meeting. Okay, now we're going to move to meeting agenda number 7, general public comment. At this time, I'd like to call up Greg Rice.
This time I'm going to ask a question. You have, like I said, I think 5 categories of priorities, and I would like to get if I can, I mean, I don't know if it's legal to say, do you guys have any direction as to what level of priorities you've assigned those different categories? I know you can't give specific, but I think it's important to know which things you hold first. And I know it's you can't break up a city, you can't break up a community, you need to have the minorities, it breaks down to the different things. So I just kind of like to know from, just in general, from the committees, how your feeling is with that. And then I'll make one other comment, and then you can respond to how you need to. With Julie's input. I wanted to clarify one thing. When I talked about the one district and I was talking Big River, when she came up, I think she was confused that I was talking about Big Bear. Big River is another Native American reservation with a little bit of community that's in the county. So when you look at that and you say, okay, how does that relate to the other areas? I think it's important to know that it is a reservation primarily on the river, and they also share issues that we have for septic and water and things like that. They actually have to have water treatment plants to pull water that's not potable at all to be their only source of water. They also have to have septic systems that are below the water level of the Colorado River. So they have special treatment systems. They have, a lot of the things that they have are very similar to what other areas in the South Desert do versus the North Desert that has pretty much developed infrastructure that's been building as cities as they go along. So those are my 2 comments. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to refer your questions to Ms. Serber.
For the record, under state and federal law, the first consideration is population equality. The second consideration is compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act. The third consideration is state law, what's referred to as the Fair Maps Act. Under the Fair Maps Act, there are a series of criteria that are supposed to be considered in order of priority. So the first item is for the districts to be geographically contiguous. The second item, to the extent practical, is for the geographic integrity of local neighborhoods or communities of interest. The third is the geographical integrity of a city or census designated place. The fourth is that the district boundary should be easily identifiable and understandable to residents. And the fifth is where it does not conflict with the above stated criteria, the district shall be drawn to encourage geographical compactness in a manner that nearby areas of population are not bypassed in favor of more distant populations.
Thank you, Ms. Serber. At this time, I'd like to call a Penny Shibnell, and I apologize for probably saying that incorrectly.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
audience hear me? Because I had a real hard time hearing a lot of you, and you did it absolutely correct. It is Shubnell. Thank you. I've been a resident up here for 27 years, not as long as Mike Harris, but I'm working on it. I'm a grant writer also, and I'm representing the senior citizens here for Crest Forest Senior Citizens Club. It was almost 10 years ago, probably to this date, that I was standing in the chambers down in San Bernardino saying, we have Rim of the World and we have Big Bear. Chanting, we have Rim of the World and we have Big Bear. And there was a reason for that. Because they are different. Even though it's the same mountain community, and yes, we have a lot of similarities. The entire mountain area has many, many similarities, but they have disparities as well, too. We have Rim of the World, and we have Big Bear. I was very taken with the motion and the votes that you just took on item number 6. I really recommend very highly that we look very strongly at keeping that district, tweaking it where you think it needs to be tweaked for the smaller cities which have the population. Let me talk a little bit about population and geography. As a grant writer, this is a problem for the mountains, and all nonprofits have to live with that problem. We have a very large geographical area, correct? Well, nobody's nodding. Come on, nod. Pretend you're awake. Come on. Okay, we have a very large, take it from me, we have a very large geographical area, but we have small population. And as a grant writer, you're writing for that small population. As a grant maker, you're looking for the big bang for your buck, right? You want to know that your money that you're putting out for a grant is going to go to as many people as possible. Well, that's not the way it works up here. We don't have that kind of population. Somebody quoted 30,000. It's probably closer to 40 if you include Big Bear. And don't quote me on numbers because I don't know what I'm talking about there. But I do know this, that I think within my heart and within my soul that the current district, the way it's set up, is the way to keep it. There's tweaking that needs to be done. Yes, I agree. But I think it's very important for us to consider 3 supervisory districts representing the mountains. Think about it. Think about 6 months down the road. Think about 10 months down the road when we're all dispensed or here, we're gone. And the Board of
That's time.
Supervisors are voting. Would you rather have a
Thank you
quorum?
for your comments.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
At this time, I'd like to call up Cool Crichton.
How you doing? My name is Cool Creighton. It's my legal name, Teddy, just so you know. I actually just want to thank you guys, really. I know there's still a lot of work to be done in this, but I came and spoke to you at one of your early meetings down in San Bernardino, and I mentioned that I was involved in this 10 years ago, and I was at every meeting practically. And I remember very much, we talked in that early meeting about how many people were going to be really interested in this on the mountain as the process rolls, and you're going to start seeing more and more people come out. And I remember a meeting down there where there was probably 80 people down there at least from the mountain all the way across, and they were in favor of keeping the mountain as one district. The reason for that is, now I've heard the other side of it, which is, hey, if we have 2 different supervisors, we got 2 people voting in our interests. And I'm saying, only if they vote in our interests, right? But they don't always do that. And that's going to be the case anyway if a different supervisor decides to vote with our interests, okay? Bottom line is, I'm really happy to see that you're putting a lot of effort into maintaining this concept that this mountain needs to be one district. And so I really appreciate that. That's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. This time, I'd like to call up Bruce Daniels.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Daniels. I've been a resident here for 38 years. I've lived in all of these communities, Big Bear to Wrightwood, and I'm here to give you the benefit of my experience. I submitted a map and a report, but I have not had an acknowledgement of receipt, so I don't know where I am. I may be in a black hole. I may not be. It's very important that when you identify mountain community, you include San Manuel, the people of the Pines. They live on our mountain, yet I do not see them on any map that shows them within our mountain district. That's critical. They own land up here. This is their ancestral land, and they have a major point to make here. They're part of the San Bernardino National Forest Management Plan, and yet they're not included within our mountain community, the people of the Pines, the very people that were here long before we. Election of more than one supervisor representing the San Bernardino Mountains dilutes what little impact our communities have in common. And I say that as a resident of Big Bear, Crestline, Running Springs, Wrightwood. It dilutes our effort. We need somebody here who's knowledgeable, who knows the area, who's a mountain person, can appreciate the environment. And yeah, we're not a big population, but we serve over 6 million visitors plus 20% projection. Those are county estimates. They're not local estimates. The San Bernardino Mountains are identified by its community, including residents, businesses, tourists, and an eco-economy focused on the LA Basin visitors. Folks, that's south. That's not north. That's not the high desert. That's 330. That's Highway 18 moving south into Redlands, San Bernardino, and Highland. You really need to appreciate the flow, commuter traffic, shopping, and everything else. We aim south, we don't aim north, and Caltrans recognizes that. Redlands, Highland, and the city of San Bernardino are intrinsically connected, including the San Bernardino International Airport, which proposes a non-road access to the entire mountain, Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead, Crestline, and it's been endorsed by the county, the San Bernardino County Transportation Agency, and San Manuel. Supervisorial district boundaries eastward justifiably include the Sand and Snow National Monument. That means off the forest, but including the forest in the Big Bear area. And that's really important. Our environment is our economy up here, and businesses can affirm that, as can school districts. Wrightwood and Silverwood Lake, where I lived in Wrightwood, they're important adjuncts to Crestline and to the San Bernardino National Forest, and you need to appreciate that real connection. Highway 138 connects
That's
over
time.
the freeway. My time is over, and I'll leave you with copies of my
Thank
statement.
you.
Nobody here. Thank you.
This concludes our general public comment. At this time, I would like to ask if the commissioners or alternate commissioners have any further comments. Okay, seeing none.
Maybe,
Oh, okay. Commissioner Basley?
you know, this was a wonderful turnout by this community, and I would like to thank them all to come and actually to host us here in Crestline and to have come and given us these comments. They've been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Basley. Do any other commissioners or alternate commissioners have any further comments? Okay, this meeting of the Advisory Redistricting Commission is now adjourned. The next scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, November 2nd at 6 p.m.
Vice Chair, can I interrupt you just for a second? I do have a staff
Oh, I
comment.
apologize.
Thank you, no problem. So Pamela Williams, County Administrative Office. So I just want to let the commission know that our next meeting next week on Tuesday, November 2nd, is at the Ontario Arts and History Museum. And we have been working with my team has advised me that there are some connectivity issues there at that location. And so we have a team that's going out on Friday morning to bring in some equipment to set up mobile connectivity, and they won't know whether or not it will work until after that time. So there is a chance that on Tuesday, the agenda will only reflect that we would be receiving public testimony and just reviewing maps in hard copy, because we won't be able to have the internet available, and we would not be able to potentially have virtual participation by the consultant. So I just want to let you guys know that. So that's just a possibility for Tuesday, but we hope and we have our fingers crossed that the connection and the equipment will work and serve that purpose. So just want to let you know.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. So at this time, this meeting is adjourned. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 2nd at 6 p.m. at the Ontario Museum of History and Art. Thank you.